Do the right people know who you are, what you do, and why it matters? Or are you still hoping that your technical ability and reputation alone will do the heavy lifting? At some point, being good at what you do is not enough. The bigger question becomes, are your clients, prospective clients, and strategic partners clear on who you are, what makes you different, what you stand for, and why your perspective really matters? That is the essence of professional contrast. So today, we're going to look at how financial advisors can make it easier for the right people to find them, understand and appreciate their value, and feel confident introducing them to friends and family members. Welcome to the Always On podcast. I'm your host, Duncan MacPherson. And on this podcast, our objective is to empower financial advisors to ensure they are always working on their business and on themselves, personally and professionally. On today's episode, I'm joined by Mitch Slater. He's an executive director at UBS, who is affectionately referred to as the Chief Visibility Officer. After decades as a financial advisor, Mitch now spends much of his time helping advisors think differently about visibility, but also communication, content, and client connection. I don't think I'm overstating it to say that in the financial services space, we are at what I would call a hinge moment. We've all heard the expression, big doors swing on small hinges. We can't be misled by the subtlety of some of the forces that are emerging in the financial services space. We all are well acquainted with AI. It is having a profound impact on financial advisors. I've talked to advisors who say to me that not only do they elevate and create more efficiency, it gives them the gift of 5 to 10 hours a week of free time, additional time. Then, of course, with AI, the horsepower that's in your client's hands now to get information as part of their due diligence and seeking investments, seeking advisors. Got to look through it, both lenses here. But then there's the other AI that has emerged in the last few years. And that, of course, is alternative investments. You know, some of the old models of 60-40 and that weighting is changing for many to a 60-30-10 or some variation of that. But I would say in this last couple of years, it rivals the impact of the shift to advisory. It wasn't that long ago. Advisors would be stock pickers selling products. They were brokers asking clients to buy something. Now, you're wealth managers asking clients to buy into a panoramic and all-encompassing process. I'm absolutely convinced the next 5 to 10 years will be the best 5 to 10 years in this space. So to help me have this conversation and to enable financial advisors to seize on these opportunities, I've got just an absolutely great guy, Mitch Slater, as you can see, with UBS. Mitch was a financial advisor for 37 years, I believe. Mitch, I got that right?
Mm-hmm.
And today is a thought leader. He's a facilitator for brainstorming and idea generation. He spearheads what I like to refer to as co-opetition. It's just getting advisors together in an open source sort of think tank environment. I love your title, Mitch, Chief Visibility Officer. I'm sure is that an official title?
It's my official title. I don't know if they don't print business cards anymore, but that's what I would put on it. I mean, they may call me executive director and all these other things, but to me, this is what it's all about. And this is what gets me excited and passionate and ready to roll.
Well, you're definitely passionate. And, when I say you're a great guy, it's not just because of your knowledge and insights and passion for the space, but you're also a massive hockey fan. So, we'll try to tamp that down a little bit, but it'll probably leak out a touch. But I want to talk about a number of different things. I know you're quite savvy on LinkedIn and ways to create visibility and stir the pot. I know you're also strong in the area of just creating professional contrast. So I guess I just want to put you on the spot, Mitch. What are some of the things that the top financial advisors are doing within your community, but also the broader space? What are they doing differently to put distance between themselves and the pack and to bring more value to their community of clients?
Well, first of all, thanks, Duncan. It's exciting to be on your show, and it's an honor. Obviously, been following you as well for many years, so I appreciate the opportunity. I think what the best advisors that I see doing, certainly at our firm, but throughout the industry, to keep it as simple as possible, is to stop being invisible. They have to get known. Content matters more than ever. And this is from somebody that started out, in broadcasting, got into this business, not knowing a thing, and realizing, that I had to just get on the phone and cold call people. But I knew that if I could get out in front of them and use whatever the media was at the time, it makes a big difference. But, we're in a different world today. It's not search engine optimization, it's answer engine optimization. Every advisor needs to be the answer to every question. And if you have a niche, that's even more important. So if you're working with business owners in Austin, Texas, and somebody goes on ChatGTP and says, I'm thinking of selling my business, is there a podcast about the mistakes that people make? And they actually find an advisor and turns into a tremendous opportunity that turned into a big win. By the way, that's a true story. That did happen last year with one of our advisors. So these things don't happen by being quiet. And Duncan, I go back to the day of the crash in '87. That was my first day back from my 3-week training in Merrill Lynch. Imagine that. Couldn't have been a better day because I had no clients and I had no money. So I had nothing to lose. And rejection, bring it on. I wanted to be an actor. So for me, I wasn't afraid, but everyone else was literally hiding under their desks, most people back then. But what I noticed then is that the best advisors in the world were not afraid of that thing on their desk that doesn't exist anymore called a telephone, and to actually pick it up and to spend hours and hours and talking to people. And whereas the smartest people in the rooms that I was in early in my career, and even maybe today, they were, Harvard Business School and MBAs and CFAs and CFPs, and nothing wrong with any of those degrees. But, they're literally drawing charts on the wall, doing stochastic this and that. But, at the end of the day, you look at production and maybe they made $1.50. I mean, they couldn't pick up the phone. And, today is just using what exists. And today it happens to be LinkedIn, it happens to be video, it happens to be podcasts, and it certainly is AI. So, those that are not afraid to get out there are the ones that are going to reap the benefits from this new era of wealth that we're starting to see in our industry.
Well, first of all, that might be one of the best opening statements I've heard on this podcast. I mean, you covered so much ground, and I do want to touch on this new era of wealth with you, so park that for a second. But you're right. The call reluctance is almost symbolic of what separates the best from the rest, because the best understand the mantra that you can't major in minor things. You can't mistake movement for achievement. You've got to focus on cause and effect, the activities that lead to productivity. And back in that day, call reluctance, just stir the pot. Call, reach out. Now, of course, things have evolved where, in the spirit of visibility, professional contrast is not just in being active, but it's in positioning, not pitching, not chasing, but attracting and differentiating. Thought leadership is so huge in that respect. I mean, financial advisors think for a living. They're knowledge for profit professionals. Their ability now to harness and develop reputational equity in the form of content. Content that speaks to unmet needs or developing needs for a business owner who's thinking about an exit strategy. Content creation around the dynastic issues around a family's continuity and succession plan. Like those blind spots, just using those as hooks to get people's attention is powerful, not just for prospective clients, but also existing clients, to maintain that dynamic of always being the first call. I talk about this with advisors all the time, Mitch. It's one of the most profound KPIs is it's a knee-jerk reaction. A client has a need that develops, emerges, an idea. Somebody puts an idea in their head. It's a knee-jerk reaction. They always call their advisor first before acting, never after. This is all engineered by everything you talked about.
Yeah, no, I mean, it's, listen, we are in an ROR, not an ROI business, right? It's a return on the relationship. That ultimately, at the end of the day, is what matters. I always give credit to my friend Ted Rubin, who wrote a book called Return on Relationships, but it's a term that I've used forever because that's what matters, because the job of a financial advisor really isn't managing money, it's expectations, right? So the relationships that you develop over the year that make you the first call are really so critical. And the best advisors know that. And whether the best advisors are producing the most or the best advisors that are just really great people helping people, they understand that. And that, that's something you can't train people on. Training has been something I worked on a lot early in my career, and we don't get enough of it these days. But you can't really train people that way. They're either innately with that or not. But the competition is so stiff. Obviously, AI is a whole other level of potential competition. But for people that really want solutions, they want. And I usually quote Bruce Springsteen at least 10 times anytime I'm out there, but they do want the human touch. That's what matters at the end of the day. So I love that you brought up the first call. I actually just worked with an advisor in San Diego, and that's the name of her new podcast, because that's really what's so good about this particular advisor is that she is always the first call, and no matter what happens in the life cycle of her clients and her clients' kids.
Well, first of all, I love that identity for a podcast because that's ultimately what advisors want. And you get into the weeds in terms of how you engineer that. It takes time. You have to delay gratification. It's reputational equity. It takes time to build that. But that is ultimately, advisors never want to hear that a client took action on something for whatever reason. They thought that, okay, my advisor doesn't do this. Or maybe I want to diversify and play advisor allocation, maybe have 2 or 3 advisors, just to sort of hedge things a little bit. I mean, there's all kinds of, elements that create this one way or the other. It's interesting. You talk about AI. I talked to an advisor not long ago. It's a cautionary tale because he's trying to scale up. He's bringing on proteges, but cutting corners around process. And one of his proteges has a pretty high opinion of himself around technical ability. A lot of the credentials, very bright young man, but trivializes the high touch, very centered on high tech, doesn't understand the balance, the bedside manner. This team lost a meaningful client, not a top client, not a bottom client, that movable middle with some serious upside. And you know what happened? The mom, the client, felt like she was being ghosted by this protege, was talking to her son, and her son said, well, let's do this. Let's just go on to Chat GPT and let's ask it a question. Do I need my financial advisor? And of course, that response prompted a couple of other questions. And next thing you know, I think it's time. Like it's not me, it's you, right?
Yeah.
They lost a client.
Yeah.
The power that's in clients' hands now and the commoditization and all these other forces. Advisors have to be mindful of this.
Every client has a story. Their family, their goals, their dreams, the people they trust, the people they love, and the legacy they want to leave behind. Toolkit 2.0 helps you see the complete picture, featuring a beautifully redesigned experience with relationship intelligence at its core, AI that helps you move faster, and collaboration built for modern advisory teams. Because the software you use every day should be as intentional as the advice you give. We built Toolkit for advisors who care about their craft and are willing to go the distance. Explore it at toolkitcrm.com.
So, okay, let's swing right over while I'm thinking about it. Let's swing to LinkedIn.
Mm-hmm.
What best practices are you seeing on LinkedIn or any social platforms that are helping advisors be found using content or whatever it is they're doing? Let's go down that path for a sec.
Well, listen, LinkedIn's been around now for 25, 26 years, owned now by Microsoft. It's a very different organization than it was. It's not your father's LinkedIn, I guess you could even say that anymore. And they play around with the algorithms. They want you to be, they want you to stay on LinkedIn. And if you aren't aware, first of all, of the new rules of the road, you're in trouble, all right? I think for most advisors, I tell them to think of LinkedIn as a networking event, not social media. I mean, every post really starts a conversation and every comment joins one. So the real secret sauce of LinkedIn today is conversations. So it matters so much more that you're getting into those conversations. You're putting comments with the people that you are interested in working with, the people you're already working with great thought leaders that are out there. Those conversations are going to push you. And comments are actually one of the highest ROI activities right now. And I tell advisors they need to spend at least a few minutes every day engaging with your clients and your prospects and your centers of influence and really build this visibility. Because it's not just building visibility, it's building trust without sometimes creating new content. I mean, listen, I love creating content, and I'm putting out something really cool about America 250 later this week, and I love doing that. I love seeing advisors do that. But, at the end of the day, I'm not really auditioning for a movie here. I mean, I'm trying to develop relationships, and part of that is by spending time really on quality more than quantity. The authentic side of it, I think, makes a lot bigger difference. And advisors fall into the same trap as so many people of avoiding, this generic content. Talk about the personal lessons, experiences. I mean, listen, my largest posts when it comes to impressions, when it comes to business opportunities. Honestly, my mom brought me a tremendous amount of business. I miss her for so many reasons, but in her 90s was had an incredible run, and I shared it with many people, where she was dancing on stage with Steve Van Zandt and Bruce Springsteen, and she became the face of J-Date. I mean, there's a whole thing I could go into that my mom in her 90s happened mostly because of things that I was involved in and she turned on to. But I brought her along for the ride on social media. And I said this on a show in 2013. At that point, I said that honestly, my largest referral base was Bruce Springsteen. I mean, I've been to over 300 concerts over 50 years. I'm quite passionate about the music and the man. But I developed this incredible network. I had podcasts on Springsteen, and I got very involved. And I met so many people over the years. In fact, I got to know the band very well. I got to do business with the band. I mean, just all these things that I would have never dreamt happened. But they happened because I put that step out there about talking about me and my life. And I wasn't surprised to see those impressions. And even in the last year, probably my biggest post came on Veterans Day. when everybody does the same thing. And I'm not going to call out my firm because everybody does this. They'll give you ideas of a post and it's a PDF or it's a picture or something. And then you find 50,000 people sharing the same thing. And, nobody opens a PDF. I mean, come on. And no one's reading, you're trying to be Hemingway. I mean, no one's really taking time. However, I used a picture which had a story behind it. The picture was at the 50th anniversary of the Civil War, and it was the people that were still alive shaking hands. So you had someone in gray, someone in blue with big gray beards shaking hands. Picture was taken in 1916. The interesting thing to me is my grandfather at 16 years old was an apprentice to the photographer. And I have a picture of him standing on this giant ladder helping with one of those amazing photographs. So on Veterans Day, I posted the photograph with that story on a Sunday afternoon at 2:00, thinking, it's a nice little story. 3 million impressions later, the thing went just crazy viral. And, I just think even more about the quantity was the fact that it just talked about me and it talked about my background and it talked about what matters to me, what matters most. And I think prospective clients and clients that people have, they want you to be like them. They want you to feel these things. And, you may have gone through these hard times with your business. You may have gone through divorce. You may have, lost a spouse. You may, whatever, or sold a business, whatever it is. The fact that you share your own humanity makes the biggest difference of all. And, I'd love to credit so many people on that one, but for me, ultimately, the credit goes to my first boss, a guy named Larry King. I was lucky enough when I was 21 years old, about to graduate George Washington University in D.C., and I was interning at another show, and I met Larry King, who was an absolute idol of mine, as an interviewer. We had lunch, which is what you do. You ask your heroes to lunch. We talked baseball for 3.5 hours, actually. And I got this gig. And for the first 2 years of my working life, I would go to work at 10 o'clock at night to 6 in the morning, all night radio, all over the coast to coast and throughout Canada. And people would call in and I would meet these amazing people. One night it'd be Jimmy Carter, it'd be Ronald Reagan, it'd be Willie Mays, it'd be Frank Sinatra, it'd be Bob Hope, it would be Muhammad Ali. I mean, just, mind-blowing things for anybody to meet, especially as a 21-year-old. And of course, I'll throw the hockey thing in because he was the MC for the hockey all-star game that was played at the Capitol Center when the Capitals in Washington played there. And the rookie sensation that year was a kid named Wayne Gretzky. And I got to meet Wayne Gretzky and bring him into the room. And I have all this signed stuff, not knowing where his career was going to go. So, but most important point, because I will go into 600 stories, just ask my wife. She's the president of the Mitch Slater has ADD fan club. No one else thinks that, but she does. But anyway, maybe she's right. The point that I really want to make is what I learned from Larry were two big things. Number one, he never learned anything with his mouth open, right? He was a good listener. And the second was curiosity. So didn't matter who the guest was, all right? He didn't research them. He didn't read the book. He could have Stephen King, James Michener, whoever. He wanted to put himself probably in the bed or wherever people were at 3 a.m, maybe working, in their ears to think about, well, what would they ask, right? So I took those lessons of being a good listener and curiosity, and if I had to really post anything that or put anything on where my success came from as a financial advisor, it was I was so fortunate to learn those things at 21 years old. And that stuck with me. And I'm speaking to a group of interns tomorrow. And that's exactly what I'm going to talk about. Be a good listener and be curious.
Well, yeah, absolutely. Very well said. You covered a lot of ground there. It's interesting on LinkedIn. I've talked to many advisors who have checked out of LinkedIn, and you peel it back a little bit and you realize that their sort of half-hearted approach or attempts at LinkedIn were basically it was marketing banners and billboards. Here I am. It was spray and pray, just like I'm a great advisor, and things like that. It just wasn't compelling, wasn't interesting, and they didn't get any engagement. And they said, well, this doesn't work. So then they let it go. And there's this old expression, Mitch, I'm sure you've heard it, that marketing is what you say, branding is what they hear. You got to look through the lens of what the client or the recipient wants. Mm-hmm. A lot of advisors talk in terms of what they do, but you want to talk in terms of what your value does and how that aligns with what somebody wants to achieve. And the more technology creeps into our lives, the more the human touch stands out. Like your endearing connection and representation with your mom on social media, that was a human touch. It was endearing. It was interesting. It's funny. One of my biggest posts, I was at an airport pouting because aviation today is just not great.
Yeah.
And flights were delayed, and I was going to get home the next morning, I think, if I remember correctly, instead of that night. And long story short, I'm sitting on the chair pouting, and I look over and I see my backpack on my suitcase, and emblazoned on the backpack is 80-20, right? The Pareto principle. It's the whole sort of keystone of our approach. And I just saw it, and I took a picture, and I posted that, and I told a little story about purpose. And, we don't have to do things. We get to do things. Like appreciate what you have and, gratitude and all of these different things. I wasn't saying anything profound. It's just that's where I was. That's what I was feeling. And it got traction. And it was just such a powerful reminder that be real, be human, facts tell, stories sell, like just engage people. And then, of course, to your point earlier, engage with others.
Yeah.
Like the law of reciprocity is, giving starts the receiving process. If you want engagement, engage with others. Respond to people.
Yeah.
Push.
You wouldn't walk into a cocktail party and just like sit in the corner and then, every 10 minutes just shout out your name or something or just shout some, great line.
Here I am.
Or like, buy this, sell this. That's not what you're going to do. I mean, if people don't know you, Duncan, they can't choose you. So
well said.
I think that, and that to me is sort of the secret sauce really, with LinkedIn, with so many different things. But you're right. So many advisors, it's, compliance won't let me do this. I can't do that. I don't want to do this. My attitude is very plainly put, focus on the shit you can do, not the shit you can't. And how else to put it? But I mean, that's the reality. And there's so many good things that you can do today. And that technology is making it so much easier to do. So, just get known. I mean, it's terrific that you've got 3 letters, 6 letters, 9 letters after your name, right? It's great that you've been recognized by Forbes, by Barron's, by Shook. That's terrific. But if people don't, like I said, if they don't know you, they can't choose you. So you need to interact with them. You need to have these conversations, and that's critical. And in LinkedIn, like I said earlier, the last thing I wanted to say on that is that people tend to put the links like immediately in their post. LinkedIn doesn't like that. They want you to stay on their platform. They don't want you to click a link and go somewhere else. But that's why link in comments makes a lot more sense, because that's not tracked by them. So, if you've got a great post and you want to put a link in, put it in the comments. Don't necessarily put it initially in the post, because that might hurt your algorithm, because that's one of the things they do focus on, according to great LinkedIn folks that I work with and people at LinkedIn who I talk to almost every day.
That's a great insight and a great reminder. And it's interesting. I mean, you think about curb appeal and first impression, you get one shot at that. And if somebody comes across your profile on a post, they look up and they see what your name is and what you do, essentially, your little soundbite there about your profession. And they're like, okay, I get it. You're a financial advisor, but who are you? Mm-hmm. And why should I trust you? Is it solely because of technical ability and credentials? No, who are you as a person? Why should I trust you for what could be an incredibly long-term relationship and into other, branches on the family tree? So the who are you, what makes you different, what do you stand for, what's your purpose, all those endearing things that make it interesting. It really helps advisors activate, if you think of Maslow's hierarchy, belonging. Like, people want to belong to something. I want to be part of this. I want to engage with this. So if you make that part of your strategy, it's again that old soundbite. You're not trying to be interesting, be interested in others. You talk about the cocktail party. Great way to get traction at a cocktail party is just to ask great questions.
Absolutely. People love to talk about themselves. They love to tell their stories. And especially, I work with a lot of advisors that work with business owners. That's sort of been a main focus maybe for me in the last year. And that's the one consistent thing I've seen with the most successful advisors in that space is they're great listeners, and they listen to the stories, and they share those stories, and they care about those stories, and the failures as well as the successes. And it seems like common sense, but in a profession that you can get distracted every single day by so many different things, people kind of forget that. And you talked about the advisor recently who lost someone, and that's just it will happen, right? We all will face those things. But if you're communicating well, and if you're having those conversations and you're prepared, all right? So, for example, you and I know, because we've been in the business long enough, there's going to be days like October 19th, 1987, 2008 and 9. I think, markets having a rough day. There's always going to be volatility, right? So be prepared. Why not have a video that you have ready to go at 4:00 that day that gets sent to every one of your clients with a 2-minute discussion about volatility, okay? Doesn't have to be what the topic is. Doesn't matter what it is of the day that caused it. But that, and you remind the people you work with, this is why we did planning. This is why we have money for liquidity. This is why we have money for longevity. This is why we have money for legacy. There's a reason that we do that, right? So you just have to remind people, and it's so critical. And it's very easy to preach. I'm preaching a lot of things that I didn't do as well as I could have. And honestly, for me, in many ways, the coolest part of the gig that I'm doing the last few years is meeting all these amazing advisors that are, just knocking the ball out of the park, and that get it, and that really are just so good in relationship management. And I never had any idea that I could even partner with these people. That's a whole other conversation that gets missed, because I was trained in a world, certainly at Merrill back in the late 80s, they brainwashed us that nobody else existed. And we were the thundering herd and there was nobody else. But not only that, oh, no, you're never going to want to work with anyone else. This was even before teaming, which, I don't know how anybody does it on their own anymore, because it is a team sport. I'm talking about hockey. This is a team sport. I just was amazed how many people, just weren't focusing on that and making big mistakes. And that's why you're going to lose relationships. The number one reason people lose clients is communication. That hasn't changed probably since the wheel. I think that probably started with fire.
Yeah, when we work initially with a team, we try to identify gaps and blind spots and unmet needs. And yeah, you're absolutely right. The lack of consistent, meaningful, impactful communication. Now the loyalty fatigue and the relationship is at risk. We try to address that out of the gate. Back to your earlier point about business owners, and those unmet needs. For a lot of business owners, especially those who break through where, the inflection point propels them to a whole new level, it's very lonely for a lot of these people, because a lot of that accomplishment was brute strength, overcoming adversity, and sometimes a little rough around the edges. And I interacted with a business owner not too long ago, and it was impressive initially just by virtue of the scale, the scope of the success. But then it got a little sad because I realized that he was on an island, some dysfunction at home, some collateral damage. And it reminded me of a financial advisor who can really connect and understand the meaning of a relationship with a business owner who might have convinced themselves that, some of these negative ripple effects are just cost of doing business. I'm going to hit my numbers and do my thing, and it costs them sometimes more than it gets them. And that's an issue that a financial advisor can assist with, just being in the sidecar.
Yeah, learning more from your failures than success. I mean, that's just, that the best business owners that I've met or interviewed, and, from CEOs of Best Buy to JetBlue and some of the other companies that I spoke to on my podcast a few years ago, that was the one consistent thing. They all had, something really go wrong. I remember the woman who started Tate's Cookies, who I talked to. She just got totally, she trusted people and wound up losing almost her entire business, and had to go through that in order to really discover within her what she needed to do. And, it's no different for advisors, and advisors have the opportunity to share that wisdom with business owners and be able to bring them the best people to give them, the advice and guidance that they need, and support and love and everything else that you need to bring. I go back in time, boy, I wish I took more psych classes in college, because at the end of the day, like I said, it's a managing expectations. You don't always, when I got in this business, I didn't expect necessarily to be in a room working on estate planning with an estate plan attorney, with a husband and wife who were married, who were co-owners of a big law firm, very volatile. I'd been around them before. And then they started talking about different estate planning things. And this woman threw a glass the entire, over across the room and hit her husband head in the face to make her point. Now I wasn't really prepared for that. I didn't have that class. But in many ways, because I had been around her, and fortunately I had a partner who really had classes in psychology and was able to handle that moment a lot better. But these are things that are going to happen. This is real life. This is I'm not saying this is the pit and we're in the emergency room every day doing things, but there are parts. I would love to see a series about 24 hours in the life of a financial advisor, and throw all of these things that happen at once. You better be prepared, and you better, have a good partnership and a good team. And most importantly, and, this took me years to learn, because you think you can do it all, have a good coach. And this should have been the obvious thing to me for someone who loves hockey, like we talked about, and sports in general, is that, the best hockey players, the best baseball players, football, I guess we're World Cup now. I'm sure Lionel Messi still has a coach, even though he scored 2 goals yesterday and 3 last week. So a financial advisor that says they don't need a coach, that's not a financial advisor that's going to succeed, in my view.
Well, first of all, backing up, the very relatable, because when you're scaling, you need people, you need a team, and a lot, I've been there where there's high trust, but no verify. And that can be revealing, because people can go off down their own path, and it reveals things.
Advisors often ask, how do I know where to focus to get the biggest lift in my business? That's exactly what the Practice Management Index, or PMI for short, was designed to answer. PMI is a diagnostic tool built by Pareto Systems to measure the strength of your practice across the 18 key business focus areas that drive growth, scalability, and enterprise value. In just 25 minutes, you'll get a clear snapshot of your strengths and blind spots, plus a roadmap to turn insights into action. Start your assessment today at paretosystems.com/PMI and take the guesswork out of your next move. The link is also in the description of this episode. For a limited time, get the breakdown report for free. Just use coupon code BDR25. That's a $99 value, which gives you access to a detailed list of action items and implementation tools. Now, back to the show.
You know, you reminded me, Frank Lloyd Wright, the architect, I think it was him, he had a great quote. He said, "Surgeons get to bury their mistakes. Architects just get to plant vines to cover them up," which is interesting.
That's a great line.
I might have butchered that a little bit, but
I get the point. The point is really, it's so true. Yeah.
Well, it's such the role of being a financial professional. It's a big responsibility. I was saying the other day to an advisor, we were talking to you about 300 clients, and we did the exercise, 300 clients. I drew a circle around 300, and I talked about that inner circle. And then I talked about the rule of 52. Everybody in that inner circle has their own inner circle of, on average, 52 friends, family members, business associates, acquaintances, and so on. Some have more, some have less. But I said, this is your impact. This is your reach. Mm-hmm. It's very substantial because you have such long-term relationships. So play the long game, delay gratification, just trust the plan. Anyway, it's an interesting conversation. But I do want to come back to something that ties in, video, LinkedIn, and the whole mindset of working on the business. So as somebody in business development, you're looking for mind share to get someone's attention. But the mindset, still one of the best practices I've seen. I was reminded of this recently. I don't know about you. Some of my best ideas occur within about a minute of stepping into a shower. And it occurred to me, why is it? I don't have a notepad. I don't have my phone to take a note, but I've been in the shower for 90 seconds, and I've got this eureka moment. And I'm so conscious of, I don't want this to stay in my head and then die. I got to capture this.
Right.
And it occurred to me, and I thought to myself, maybe it's the water flowing that creates a bit of Zen. Maybe it's the captivity of, I'm in 4 walls and no noise, just absolute focus. Long story short, that best practice of booking a recurring meeting with yourself every day for an hour, same time, 3 p.m. every day, I'm going to tune out the world, put on the noise-canceling headphones, put my head down, and work on my business and on myself. I'm going to engage in LinkedIn. I'm going to study AI. I'm going to study alternative investments. I'm going to reach out to my clients. I'm not going to I'm going to go just
be proactive. Yeah.
Be proactive. It's still to this day, Mitch, one thing that separates the best from the rest. You talk about athletes like Sidney Crosby, 4 or 5 coaches, arguably one of the top players ever, and he still has the humility. He says, I need another set of eyes on this to hold me accountable. Okay, so I'd love your input on that premise of the compounding effect, the incrementalism. You work on yourself and your business for 1 hour today, nothing's going to happen probably. You let that build on itself and compound the way money compounds, the discipline compounds too. Let that go, make that a best practice and a habit? I mean, how high is high? I'd love your input on that.
Well, yeah, I mean, listen, you said the key word there, habit, and go back to the Stephen Covey days and, the habits of successful people. But that is a habit of the best financial advisors that I've known, is that they do, everyone loves off-site. We're going to do off-site. Well, you need to do your own off-site. Okay.
Yeah.
And that's, what you were talking about. It's funny when you were talking about the shower analogy, I'm thinking, oh, maybe you're cleansing your brain or something, but really, you have to have those moments. You have to take that time. And again, I think LinkedIn's, if you're looking for something to do, that at least is a proactive thing for your business, because you are having conversations with people, you're joining conversations, you're getting known. It makes a difference, a big difference. And I'm seeing this over and over again. In fact, I recently talked to an advisor who had very successful already working with business owners, but this one founder been working on for 3 years, could not get a meeting, and started doing videos, pretty basic videos about different topics that tie into business owners, maybe direct indexing or QSBAs or stock ownership plans or whatever, just general stuff, knowledge. And out of the blue, got a direct, and what was even better was taking these videos, and he would put those videos into conversations with some of these founders that he wanted to work with. And he got a direct message. He called me a few weeks ago, got a direct message from this particular founder, says, you know what? Now I've heard you. Now I've seen you. Now I want to sit down with you. All right.
Interesting.
Wouldn't have happened before. And we get back to that new era of wealth. I mean, the new era of wealth looks a lot different than you and me, Duncan. And it's changed dramatically. And we'll just start with women initially, because everyone does research and they're going to check you out and Google you. But women, they spend a lot of time. They're very, very smart. They spend a lot of time researching on who they're going to work with. And if they don't find something about you, sure, they see you won this award and whatever, and maybe you're even referred, but then they see 3 other people in their city or wherever they are, and they've been producing content, they've been doing an interesting podcast on a topic that matters to them. Suddenly they feel like, oh, I'm going to work with them. We have a team in Beverly Hills that focuses on divorce. They came into the studio here and shot great work that is now all over their website on different topics, gray divorce, all different types of divorce. They're now actually co-hosting the California Bar Association's podcast, who reached out to them. So they're meeting divorce attorneys, 2 times a month. But they got the message out. And that's just, to me, if you're going to take time to have that moment of zen and really put time into your business, don't hide it from everyone else. Really let them know. And it may not be you. It may be someone else on your team that's better at this. And, certainly the next generation is my generation, the baby boomers, or, the millennials are getting the money, and millennials right now are making a lot of money. So, if you're not focusing on all of these different segments of the population, multicultural, women, athletes and entertainers, business owners, whatever it is, somebody else is. And that I think is, at the end of the day, the key to all of this is that, you better hit, better start hitting those singles, or just get those reps in, because somebody else is right behind you. And you're good. If you're good at what you do, you're going to be good at, letting people know about it.
Yeah, well said. It's funny you mentioned, you reminded me of my wife, who her due diligence protocol. So she'll look at reviews. What are other people saying? And she wants to see the best review and the worst review.
Right.
And see if she can be somewhere in between that. Now she's gone to the next level where she used ChatGPT and ask it questions about the vendor or whatever the case may be. And it's a very interesting exercise to see her approach to deciding if she's going to opt in. Very powerful.
Yeah, every advisor listening today, Go on ChatGPT, I don't care what city you're in, and ask, let's say your focus is business owners. I'm a business owner, and I want to work with an advisor that does this. I'm in Austin, Texas. Who would you suggest? And you're probably not going to come up on that list. How do you get on that list?
Right. That's very, very powerful. Well, back to your point about content. And I think, Mitch, you and I had a conversation way back when where you called it thinking time. Am I getting that right?
Yeah.
Did you call it? Yeah. Well, you think about this. A fee-for-service professional in the knowledge-for-profit business thinks for a living.
Right.
Well, if you think of the mantra, pay yourself first, okay? So we tell our kids, pay yourself first, 10%, then spend what's left, not the other way around. As a fee-for-service, knowledge-for-profit professional, pay yourself first. Carve out the time to think and work on your business.
I ended every episode with my Financially Speaking radio show that I did out in New York that I syndicated back in the 90s, and with my podcast, ending it with those 3 words, pay yourself first. I mean, because at the end of the day, it's probably the best the best advice that I ever got in this business, as well as day one of training and a guy writing on the board the letters IASM, and mic drop, walked out of the room and said, there's the secret to your success, and then filled it in, I am sold myself, and then the rest of the word, enthusiasm. And he said, if you can combine enthusiasm and being sold yourself, and that doesn't mean being sold on this stock or this bond or this fund or whatever, but being sold on what you're doing to help people, and truly, truly believe in it, that message is not going to get across to the person you want to work with. So
I love that. That's excellent. And again, thought leadership. And I want to connect that actually for a second, because you hit on something around the relationship cycle. Like the recipient of your thought leadership and content that you're going to create, it starts with awareness. Like, back to your point, like I've heard you, I've seen you, now I want to sit down with you. I think that was like the progression. Right. That's a variation on the relationship cycle. It creates awareness. Okay, I know who you are. Then it goes to interest. Okay, you're speaking to me. Your message is aligning with what I want to accomplish myself. So that's the next step. And then it's confidence. Okay, where I'm thinking to myself, okay, I'm coming to my own conclusions here. This makes sense. So attention, interest, confidence, action. Now I want to act. And the beautiful thing about content marketing, LinkedIn, website, search engine optimization, automated reviews, video, is you can make it easier to be found. And the beauty about ChatGPT, you can actually, to your point, you can go into ChatGPT and say, I'm a financial advisor in Austin, Texas. I work primarily with successful business owners. Build me a strategy so when somebody is looking for a financial advisor like me, they find me.
Right.
ChatGPT will lay out the sequence of steps you need to deploy to be found.
Right.
But again, before you try to be found by a prospective client, your best prospective clients are the friends and family members of your existing clients.
Absolutely.
So create content and stir the pot with your inner circle. Let them make these introductions.
And ask them specifically what they would like to hear. When I started my podcast, it was a really radical thing at my firm. It took me 5 years to convince them that Gary Vaynerchuk, Gary V, who was my client and a friend who was in my ear, like, why aren't you doing this? That this made sense. I immediately formed a little board of directors of about 6 or 7 clients to help me, the kind of guests they'd like to hear, what would be interesting that might give you the opportunity to refer someone to me? I mean, I just asked the question. And quite frankly, that's where I got the business. I got great ideas. I got great guests. So involve your best people, your centers of influence as well. And involve them with whatever you're doing. It's really critical. It's
so powerful. Yesterday I had coffee with the son of some good friends that own a business, and so he's taking the torch in the family business. He wanted to pick my brain about ideas, and I gave him some ideas, but at the end of the conversation, I said, before you do anything, make your clients the voice you listen to. Before you listen to me, before you listen to a marketing consultant, I said, you've got 450 people that know who you are. They've experienced your business. They like you. They trust you. The best way to convert them to advocates and, basically a board of advisors is ask them why they like you, why they selected you. Ask them for their opinions on how you can raise the bar. Make them the voice. People want to take a protege under their wing. I was a protege. Somebody took me under their wing. Mm-hmm. Radical impact on my life. Now I owe a debt of gratitude to society to do the same thing. Enlightened people think that way. So to your point, make your clients the voice. We have a campaign, Mitch. You've probably seen it over the years that we've done. It's the next 90 days. The best thing you can do in the next 90 days is ask your clients, the people who are already convinced, these three questions on this campaign. If anybody listening in wants that, just ask me on LinkedIn or just send me a message or call us at the office. We'll send this campaign for you. I could parade people through this room who'd say, hands down, best thing I ever did. Before I tried to convince somebody new, I talked to the people who are already convinced. They told me what to do. It's so powerful.
No. I know that message you've had out there for years, and it's a very powerful message. And I'm sitting here thinking today, only because of today's date. A year ago today, I was laying on a table having open heart surgery.
No.
And it was something that I knew 2 years earlier I might need. It was a genetic thing, came out of nowhere. I had no symptoms. My PSA, which remains the same as it was a year ago, to everybody is see a doctor. That's how they heard a murmur. It was, taken care of. I was within 8 weeks back to work and doing great and don't even think about it anymore. But the whole point of what I'm saying as I reflect back on that moment today is that, life is short, life is unexpected, life is messy, and every client that you deal with is going to go through the same thing. And, don't be afraid to share those messy moments and talk about them and learn from them and realize that the older you get, the more it means, and you need to seize the moment and take those 90 days, take that break that you need to learn more about your business. Please take vacations. Please do something to mentally be prepared for, we can talk all day, but this is a tough business. I'm an accidental financial advisor. This was not my career choice. It sort of fell into it at age 28. Best thing that ever happened to me. And I had great mentors and hopefully made a difference in people's lives, but it took a lot of work. And a lot of coaching and a lot of, really paying attention to what was going on around you. So just wanted to mention
sharing that with me. It looked like $1 million, but thanks for sharing that. That's a huge milestone.
Yeah, a picture came up on my time hop today. I didn't even realize it. I'm like, oh, was that? Yeah, that was a year ago today.
Wow.
But we all face these moments, and hopefully that's my moment. And I'll worry about it for 30 years or whatever. But I moments like
just
that.
Just a gentle reminder to take nothing
and it
for
does
granted.
give you time to think. That's for sure.
Yeah. Well, you mentioned the ROR, return on relationship, and the investment community and their clients are richer on many levels because of your value to the industry. And I appreciate you making the time to be here. We scratched the surface. I'm looking at my notes here, and I think I hit on 20% of what I wanted to talk about, but we'll have to pick this up and do it again. But absolutely love, great message, great messenger, and I can't wait to go to a Devils game with you next season.
Absolutely. Anytime, or come on out to UBS Arena and see the Islanders.
Yeah, beautiful. Yeah, of course.
Either one, but hockey is It's the great.
What was that rink called before?
Well, it was Nassau Coliseum, which they knocked down, and they built the new arena. And I'm proud to say our firm is a big hockey firm. We have a lot of folks that have been involved in hockey and great hockey fans. And actually, guy I work with is the winningest coach in New Jersey with his private school. And so, yeah, it was Nassau Coliseum where, they have not had a good team really since the 70s when they won those 5 cups, which is, hard to believe anybody could ever do that. As a New York Ranger fan growing up, it was very frustrating watching those Islanders. But boy, and I've met a lot of them since I've been in this role that are involved with our organization. But
You probably heard this story from Gretzky because obviously their last cup was against the Oilers.
yeah,
And after the Islanders won, right? Trottier, Bossy, Potvin, Smith, all of the crew there. The Oilers got dressed and left the dressing room and walked by the Islanders' room. They were still in their gear, exhausted, and the number one thing they could smell above the champagne was Ben Gay. And that's when the Oilers said, that's their last cup.
yeah,
We're getting the next cup.
Yeah.
Because they said we could go play another 7 games right now. So it's just an interesting passing of the torch, but I love those stories. There's a great, I don't know if you've seen the film Boys on the Bus.
Oh yeah,
Yeah, okay, so the Oilers back in their day and, culminating with that cup against the Flyers. That's a really, I think
Broad
it had
Street Bullies.
What's that?
The Broad Street Bullies.
Yeah,
Flyers
exactly.
Back then, Bobby
You're
Clark.
so close to so much great hockey. You could drive to 4 rinks in a couple of hours at the most.
Well, great hockey, but we haven't had a winner, around here since, Rangers 94, Islanders 79 or 80. Devils,
80.
we did have our great run, and my son benefited from that. Boy, I'm glad I made him a hockey fan. Unfortunately, I made him a New York Met fan, which I do regret. But from hockey, the Devils and those 3 cups, and Marty Brodeur lives about a mile from where I'm talking right now, and I did events with the Devils. That was that's another last thing I'd leave people with. Follow your passion. So I love hockey. So I knew that the Devils all bought their suits at Hugo Boss, a lot of European players, and that was right near their practice rink. So I did an event every year with the Devils where they would come in, they get a discount. I'd bring my clients at night, their kids, their grandchildren, close off the store, had a photographer, a little bit of food. I wound up working with some of the Devils, wound up, having all kinds of incredible things that I would have never dreamt of. But I combined my passion with clients' passions, which, you tend to work with people that like a lot of the same things. So just don't be afraid to step out and do those things.
Chemistry with people is just as important as the credentials that drive your value. So focus on both. It's a great way to go. So, okay, Mitch, awesome. Thank you very much. We'll pick it up again and try to get through the rest of the list here. But I really appreciate what you brought to the table.
Thank you, and thank you, Duncan, for all you've shared in our industry. You've made a tremendous difference to many, many people. So thank you.
High praise. I appreciate that a lot. Okay, man. Take care.
Thank you for listening to Always On with Duncan MacPherson, where our objective is to enable professionals to always be working on their business and on themselves. Want to learn more about Duncan and his team? Visit ParetoSystems.com. Don't forget to click the follow button below to be notified when new episodes become available. The information covered and posted represents the views and opinions of the hosts and/or guests and does not necessarily represent the views or opinions of Pareto Systems. The content has been made available for informational and educational purposes only.